Welcome to the new series of webinars done in partnership by the 55Project and Briyah Institute. So it's a pleasure to have you all here today. It's a series of webinars. We're starting today with a focus on health and healing. So the series is about nature, how nature connects art and science around whatever. And this whatever today is health and healing. And we have an honor to have amazing guests with us. And before I get there, I will pass the baton to Maria. So Maria is one of the co-founders of the 55Project, and she is going to explain her vision and why we began to co-create this series of webinars. So Maria, welcome, and thank you for being with us.
Oh, thank you, Adriana, and welcome everybody. So speaking a little bit of the 55Project, it's a platform, and when we have the mission to increase the visibility, the 55Project, it's an arts foundation. So it's the 55Project Arts Foundation. So the mission is to increase the visibility of Brazilian artists, but basically with through a calendar of events, including solo projects, collect exhibitions, public arts, a lot of events. But one of the main important component of this project is to create opportunities like today, conversations between artists and local communities, and the education component is very important. And so this talk series are inspired right now by a current exhibition, Forest, Ancestry, and Dystopia. It's an exhibition that right now is in the Art Gallery, and from February to July, and host basically 16 famous Brazilian photographers and artists, curated by Eder Chiodeto, and talks about the mythical environment aspects of the forest, the beauty, and also the raising awareness about current exhibitions as well. So I think this talk today has a lot of very strong connections with the exhibition, and would be perfect to explore like a health and healing through Lisa, for this conversation with Lisa and the Brazilian artist Ana Nitzan. And I just want to say thank you. The key of the word, everybody's talking about collaboration. So this is a collaboration project, and I have to say thank you, Adriana Machado. You are one of our ambassadors, the 55Project, but your idea, your resilience, to put this project together, and founder of Briyah Institute, so it's amazing. So I can't wait. What are we gonna be talking, and what are we gonna be hearing?
Thank you, Maria. It's wonderful to co-create with you and Flavia and all the other ambassadors of the 55Project. Yes, it's an honor to be here with Lisa and Ana today. Before I introduce them, I just wanted to say that we experience this magnificence of nature every day in our lives, and we rarely stop to reflect upon it, to talk about it, to have conversations around it. So this was what got us started, the exhibit about the forest, bringing the topic of ancestry and dystopia, and seeing the work is so profound that it's important that we continue exploring ways to leverage what's in there. So whoever is in Miami, please don't miss the opportunity to go see for yourself. The work is amazing, and we will be discussing several aspects here. So today the focus is on health and healing, and this collaboration, this partnership between the 55Project and Briyah Institute is going to try to not only highlight what the exhibit has to bring to us individually and collectively, but also how we can think in terms of systems. And that's the work we do at Briyah. And how by changing our perception and connecting these dots and seeing us as systems inside other systems, and finding these interconnections allows us to increase the vision, to broaden the perspective, and feel much better. And you will see that this is definitely part of the work that Lisa and Ana do in their own areas of expertise, and we hope to explore this further with you all. So let me just dive deeper here. We have the presence of Lisa Miller, so PhD. Dr. Miller is a clinical psychologist. She's an award-winning researcher, bestseller author of The Awakened Brain. If you haven't read yet, please do. It's amazing. And she has other books as well, but I will focus more on this one today. It's a groundbreaking exploration of the neuroscience of spirituality and a bold new paradigm for health, healing, resilience. So welcome, Lisa. It's great to have you.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you so much. I'm so looking forward to our all connecting.
Thank you. And the other guest we have with us today is also one of the artists in the exhibit that Maria mentioned, Ana Nitzan. She's a Brazilian artist. Ana develops research in photography, drawing, painting, jewelry, sculpture, and she reflects this symbolic and affective perception between human beings and nature. She loves to live as part of nature and be in contact with nature all the time. And she definitely reflects that in the work, the beautiful work she does. So thank you and welcome, Ana. Thank you for being with us.
I thank you so much, Adriana, Flavia, Maria, everybody, Lisa. It's nice to be here.
So let's get started. Please feel free to ask questions in the chat or the Q&A. Before I ask them the first question, I have a little poll here that I wanted to take the temperature of all of you. So please take a look at the questions we are showing you now and try to answer and see, let's see who is with us and how do you feel. So do you consider yourself or aspire to be an artist, a scientist, or both? So maybe you can pick one of the answers there. And the other questions I'd love for you to answer is, do you see yourself as independent from nature, in alignment with nature, or as part of nature? So let's just take a look at the answers. Just one more minute for people to respond. So please click and answer for yourself, and we will see here the results. Let me share the results with you. So most people see themselves as both scientists and artists. It's beautiful and very much tied, artists and science there. I love it. And most people see themselves as part of nature or in alignment with nature. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. So the first question that we thought of asking these two amazing ladies here is how nature inspired their early days. So can you say what shaped you? How, nature shaped you to become what you are today? So let's hear a little bit of their trajectories. I'll start with Lisa. Lisa, please enlighten us.
Thank you, Adriana. So I would say that like every single child on earth, and we know this now through science, I was a very spiritual child. Every child is born a naturally spiritual child, just like we're physical and emotional and cognitive beings. We're all built with the capacity for a transcendent relationship with all living beings. And as a child, I remember being so close to trees and feeling just, I would hug trees and I would talk with trees, and I was in relationship to animals. And I remember very, very well knowing that, even though I'd heard adults say, oh, they just want your breadcrumbs, as if it were a transactional relationship, that actually we were really friends, that it was an authentic relationship, a transformative relationship. So I think children are born in relationship to all living beings. This is our birthright. And of course, in my view, who I call God, everyone has their own word, God, Spirit, Hashem, the universe, Jesus, who I call God, is in and through all living beings. And as I grew up as a scientist, over the past 20 some years looking at this, it turns out that the same part of the brain through which we are in relationship to God or our higher power is the same part of the brain through which we are in relationship to God's presence in one another and in all of nature. So the child knows.
Beautiful, Lisa. So as a child, a spiritual child, so how was this contact with nature, and how did this contact with nature inspired and shaped who you are today?
So I as a child, it was very clear to me that all living beings were our sisters and brothers. And it didn't make sense to me when, I learned in school, well, animals, they don't quite feel the same way we feel. And I thought, well, that doesn't seem to fit my impression. They seemed very expressive, and I had a dog, and we were very close. And I remember looking at birds, and I knew that we were in relationship to animals. But I think the message in mainstream education in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s was that somehow animals are different than us, that they're not conscious and they don't feel the way we feel, or they don't have love the way we have love. And that's just not true. When I grew up, I did studies that showed that we are in truth in relationship to all living beings, and that we have a part of our brain that allows us to feel connected and love with other people unconditionally, the homeless guy, our own child equally, and all living beings. So I became a scientist that looked at other forms of connection than strictly verbal.
Beautiful. A science that looked at other forms of connection that aside the verbal. I love it. Thank you. Okay, so let's hear Ana. Ana, your story. How has nature shaped you since your early days?
I remember until today, when I was a little, I used to daydream between flowers and leaves and trees, to climb on trees. I used to live on the trees. I used to imagine my life when I was there over the trees. So something interesting, because here in Brazil it's common to have a farm. It's not so common, but I had my childhood, spend a lot of time, my vacation on the farm. So I was alone, exploring all the farm alone. Imagine on the fall cachoeira, fall waterfall, and whatever. I was without shoes and feeling the earth, and breathing the trees. Breathing the trees, and many things like that. But when I was 13, when my father passed away, something was very strong with me, because I lost my ground, like a sandcastle that had been destroyed. So I've decided not to be desperate, because I feel in the nature in that time very strong for me. So my connection that time, it's much more strong, because I need to be connected. I've decided to have a very nice life, and I've decided when I was very little. Imagine 13 years is so young, but I think I always have a spirituality too. I'm not feeling alone, because I had nature until today close to me. I think of that.
Beautiful. So again, connection. I hear connection from both of you very, very early in both of your lives. Wow.
Yes.
So nowadays, there is this emerging discipline called biomimicry, which has been popularized by a lady called Janine Benyus. She's a biologist. She is also the author of a book called Biomimicry, Innovation Inspired by Nature. She's a consultant. She co-founded an organization called Biomimicry 3.8, and also the Biomimicry Institute. And this institute emulates nature's designs and processes to create healthier and more sustainable things and planet. So this institute hosts designs challenges and has mobilized a network of practitioners around the world. So I see this movement now as a new discipline, bringing this expertise from nature to different areas that in the past did not really get informed by nature. And both of you come from areas and this very early connection that not necessarily looked for nature for answers, for traditional education in, well, maybe arts a little bit more than in medicine. So in your upbringing, when you go to college, you don't necessarily are told to look for answers in nature. But so please, let me see, in your trajectory now towards what you are now, so a doctor, an artist, how has this design from nature or answers from nature somehow informed the work you're doing today? So,
you know, Adriana, it's so interesting because science has shown that if we walk in nature, we don't need to particularly think about anything or do anything, but simply walk in nature for 20 minutes. We mobilize the brain as if we had been in a state of meditation or prayer. So we are nature, we are one with nature, and we are yet in relationship with nature, dialectic. And nature effectively entrains the brain, which is to say, if you look at a brain that is in a deep spiritual connection, day in and day out, we develop a new set point. And you put an EEG cap on our brain, we give off a wavelength called high amplitude alpha. So if we pray, if we meditate, if we feel connected and know ourselves in relationship to nature, we start to give off this wavelength. Well, that wavelength of the spiritually engaged brain, of the awakened brain, is the very same wavelength that is found from the Earth's crust up 1 mile, nature itself, all the way around the Earth, creation. The spiritually engaged brain vibrates with the same wavelength as nature herself, which is to say that felt sense of oneness is an actual, true, measurable oneness. It is real. We become one. We return to nature as we return to our nature.
That's amazing. But this study wasn't there when you started. I remember hearing you say that when you started, you felt that there was a hole in the way that psychology was taught and applied to your patients. But you developed this beautiful research later. So before that, can you tell us?
Thank you, Adriana. You read the book. You read the book. So what was popular in the 90s and the early 2000s was to think of suffering as within each individual. I call it the closed system or the hermetic human. And suffering was therefore seen to be a product of what had gone into the human in the past. How did my mother treat me? How do I think of myself? You know, it was all about that. But what I think science has helped us realize, and this has been my life's work and fellow scientists as well, is that when we are a closed system, when we are only onto ourselves and self-referential and spinning our wheels, the closed system human is a depressed, isolated, splintered experience. It is inherently depressing to be a closed system. And in fact, much of what about 2/3 of depressions is an invitation to open, to awaken really, and become an open system where we are in relationship and we can hear, what is life showing me now? What is nature revealing? That just as the mother goose has beautiful little yellow baby geese, I identify with her. I relate to her as a fellow mother, and I have little babies. You know, this sense of deep oneness, the sense that nature guides us, that we're never alone, that we're loved and held. This we are hardwired for, but our culture, mainstream culture, has made us cut off from the deeper oneness that we are also wired to experience.
So you truly believe that with your work and the work of other scientists now, we are beginning to see that we are not closed systems, that we are interconnected, and this is expanding also the findings in science, right?
And that we suffer when we act like closed systems, that why do we wait until we are traumatized to say this is too much? I have to hand it to my higher power, someone bigger than me. Why do we wait until we bottom out and go to AA to say, I need to hand it over? We're built to be in a dynamic, loving, transcendent relationship with God, the higher power, spirit, in and through all life. And that is our nature. We see it in the MRI. Everyone, no matter if they're Catholic, Hindu, Jewish, Muslim, has the same spiritual brain. And we can awaken to our true nature and know that we are loved and held by life itself. Be an open system, hear the birds, see one another as sisters who showed up of all times on earth right now. We're each other's guides. We're part of nature too.
Wow, this is amazing. Thank you. All connected. Ana, you also found this connection with nature and inspired the work you're doing. So tell us more about it. How did it happen to you?
For me, nature influences me because I believe that I am nature. I believe that our connection comes from our ancestors, who we are is result in this line that we call life. We are part of everything, and everything is part of us. This is not religion, but for me, it's sacred. Sagrado, sacred. And for example, when you see the moon, when you sit down, sit under the tree, appreciate the nature, you believe that nothing, the nature don't demand anything of you, and you don't, and like let it be, you feel very comfortable because the nature don't demanding anything for you. And nature doesn't demand nothing of me. No demanding, no requirement. This is, I believe. I think this is the line that I think.
So no demanding, and it's still offering.
Yes, because for me, when you feel comfortable because the nature don't demanding nothing of you. You sat down to appreciate the loon, the tree, the dog, the animals, everything, because the nature don't demand nothing of you. You relax because of that, and opposite is the same, because the nature and nature don't demand you nothing. I don't know if it's clear.
It doesn't demand anything from you, but yet as an artist, you see inspiration in nature and in your work, especially there in the exhibit. You have wonderful drawings, right? From trees.
This is I open. Yes, I'm open. I open my heart. I open something inside of me that I received this. This is not me. I am part of the system. I am part of the system. It's not my idea. I decided to do like this. I don't believe on that. This is not my art, Ana Nitzan. I don't believe on that. I believe that I am a part of something very big, and that I call Mother Nature. And I am a channel, and I put it out, my work.
Like you're in the flow. You're in the flow, connected, right?
Yes, I connected. And to be connected, I need to put my ego out. And my everything I need to put out. But it's easy for me. It's difficult for me to leave a lot of people, for example. But if I stay on the forest alone, no problem for me. This is why I go to Amazon again when Eder Kyode to call me to be an exposition. Not to take more pictures, because I have a lot of pictures, but I wanted to connect again with the very strong nature, to listen and what is important to do, and to be open. and to be part of the nature, like a relax and be part. Don't put my ego, I've decided to do. I don't believe on that. This is not good. For art, it's not good if you put your ego.
So you would say that what I'm hearing from you is that when you can feel part and just flow, it's not your idea or anything that comes from the ego, but you're just expressing this connection.
Yes, connection. I'm a channel that take it this feeling and put it out, this energy, this very strong energy, and put to show everybody.
That's beautiful. Lisa, you were going to say something?
Well, Ana, I saw your drawings and they really just penetrated my heart. They were so full of feeling, and they were, of the twists and the challenges and the stories and the lives of these trees. And I felt emotions that I recognized as a human in the expression of the trees. And I want to ask you, is that because it is mediated through you, that this, you take and it flows through you and could it also be at the same time that the tree holds an emotion that we can recognize as well, that there is one emotion, that this challenge and the twist and the regeneration and all of the feelings in your drawings were so deep. They just penetrated me. So do you think it's mediated through you? Do you think it's in the tree itself? Do you think it's both?
Yes, I think it's both. I don't know if I understand very well, but I think it's both because I am here. So I don't put my ego totally out. I try to put it out, but it's here. Of course, I'm talking to everybody now. But when I was walking on the forest, when I be connected with the trees, I can recognize my pictures because there are a lot of pictures that reminds human part of human. And I had a contact with someone that worked with Indian people that used to live here in Brazil, that they have this kind of eyes like me, see human being on the forms of the trees, and maybe I in the same connection. And sometimes if I relax and let it be, I think I connection with these trees, because for me trees is very live. I can talk with trees, not talking just not words, né? It's different kind of conversation. It's not necessarily conversation, it's not just feeling. I don't know how can I express this in Portuguese. I don't know how can I express this. So
it's right through to the person with the privilege of experiencing the trees that you've drawn. They're very alive. They're very full of feeling, and they have a story, just like each human individual has a story. Your trees, I looked at their lives and tried to figure out what had happened. And
yeah, so
yes,
there are people in the chat asking to share the work, Ana. So we'll see if we can do that by the end of the webinar, to also share a little bit of those drawings and thought and work that you share in the exhibit there, because it is really an expression, like you described.
To send you some pictures.
Yeah, no, to share here.
No.
If we can, we'll try
to share.
Try to share some of the work.
Adriana, I just sent you by mail some of her works, that we have currently.
Okay. So we'll continue the conversation here, and
Okay.
I'll try to capture that and share with the audience as well. So
the art was extraordinary.
go ahead.
Well, I was thinking that the animals as well, some of the art in the exhibit is about animals. And the extraordinary suffering that we've brought to them. I mean, just it's so painful, and yet I make myself look and bear witness. And I think about the fact that all living beings are in relationship with us and each other. Everybody else in the whole kingdom of life is in relationship. And you'll see, there's a horse, and right by the side of the horse, a little egret, and they're feeling the presence of one another. And I'll share with you a brief story. When my child, Isaiah, was only 2 years old, I took him for a walk and we saw little tiny yellow baby geese who roughly were the same age as Isaiah. He was 2, they were pretty young, and he wanted to play. He wanted to be friends. And he started playing with them and was so enthusiastic that he frightened Mother Goose. And Mother Goose turned around and hissed, big hiss. And when she whipped around, she didn't whip around at Isaiah. She whipped around to look at me, because I had violated the universal code of motherhood, which is to watch my child to the protection of hers. So Mother Goose, without question, was in relationship to me as a fellow mom. Everyone in the animal kingdom, every life being is in relationship. And I think that our culture that has blinded humans to this deep sisterhood and brotherhood with fellow animals, I think is very frightening to fellow living beings. We must walk around feeling scary and dangerous because humans are not listening. They aren't listening to the relationship. We're acting closed system when it is in our birthright as part of the family of life to live like all other animals as an open system.
So let me try to share the pictures here. Let's see. This is part of the exhibit that he's here in Miami. Can you see the pictures now? So Anna, can you explain? Can you all see the pictures?
Yes, this series was created by Eder Chiodeto. I've been developing for a few years. It's similarly with, you can see on the images that most of the images, all of them, look like a human and animals through the roots, and I draw with charcoal directly over the picture. This paper is very good. It's made of cotton and absorb very, very good the charcoal. When I love roots. Always since I was little, I love roots and parts of wood that it was let it be on the forest. Now I know. Nowadays I discover that most of the part of trees that we think that it's not life, it's not. It is life. It's looks like death, more to death.
It seems to be dead, but it's not dead. It's alive.
Yes, thank you, Adriana. Yes. This is, but it's life. What else? It's this. What else? I think it's this.
Let me stop sharing here the beautiful work. We will try to share more in the links after we have the posts of the conversation here. There's some comments here in the chat. I just wanted to mention a couple here. So there was one by Rodrigo. Interesting thought of us being a creative channel for expressing something much larger than the individual. This is really provocative if we think about possibilities either in arts or science. Thank you, Rodrigo, for this comment.
That is true when you look through an MRI, that much of the process of receiving inspiration, the muse and creativity, is similar to the brain's process in receiving spirit. And that through time has been understood, the Sistine Chapel.
Yes, and we have also another person here, Meredith Kaplan. She also shared with us that from the beginning of civilization, education always aligned with nature. It's post-enlightenment with acute rationalism and a severing with the heart and the mysteries in nature. Another severing from nature parallels sidelining women and intuition and many ways of knowing. Then the Catholic Church acutely maligned and thinking that offered alternatives to the narrowing of experience through constrained canon. So thank you, Meredith, for also sharing these thoughts with us here. So I would love to go back to the health aspect of our conversation here. In Lisa's book, page 8, to be more precise, she says, the awakened brain is the neural circuitry that allows us to see the world more fully and thus enhance our individual, societal, and global well-being. When we awaken, we feel more fulfilled and at home in the world. We build relationships and we make decisions from a wider view. So we've been talking about relationship a lot here. And she goes on saying in the book, we move from loneliness and isolation to connection, from competition and division to compassion and altruism, from an entrenched focus on our wounds, problems, and losses to a fascination with the journey of life. Wow. Lisa, please. I couldn't help but read the exact thing you wrote, because this is so profound.
Well, I think this is why your work, Adriana, is so profoundly important, because when we do shift into a deeper understanding of the oneness, I say to my students at Columbia, we are a point and we are a wave. We are unique and magnificently diverse, and we are really part of one family, one field of life. We are whitecaps on one ocean. And when, your work is so important, because when we do have a choice before us and we take that choice to see life in its more unitive nature, then we're so much more life-giving to one another. We make choices that aren't narrowly win-lose, like a zero-sum game. Your piece of the pie is one less for me. And instead, it's an infinite partnership where it's more like kerosene on a fire of infinite possibility. And it's a profound rearrangement of meaning, and there's so much more available creatively, innovatively. So much of the suffering in the 20th century was because we had a radical view of separateness. We were only looking at the point, only looking at the white cap on the wave and not the ocean. And what that meant was that if a country drops a bomb over here, it somehow isn't going to affect us over there. Or that if there's contaminants put in water over there, it's not going to affect all the living beings in the community. There was no deep understanding. We were blind to the unitive nature of life. And what you're doing with your work and with your extraordinary sort of cultural leadership to bring us into awareness of our unitive reality is to create within each and every one of us the possibility for a deeper sisterhood and brotherhood, peace, care, because it's not do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's do unto others because you are literally doing unto you. It is one story, not two.
Thank you. It's inspiring. And I've been hearing that a lot, that it's not only talk, but it's do. And just the fact that we're here together in this initiative, talking about it, but showing how to be able to do this, to leverage this connection with nature to our own behalf in terms of health and well-being, the interconnectedness strengthen us. And you also write in the book that it's the awakened brain is a muscle. You can learn to strengthen it, right? So I would love to hear you, and then to also hear Ana talk about how she strengthens this connection with nature to get healing, to get health, to get inspiration for art. But let's start with Lisa, and then I'll go to Ana.
Well, when we do engage with life as an open system, when we feel the deep oneness, that we're loved, that we're held, that nature is guiding, and we do our part to be loving and holding and guiding, then we're enacting one foot in front of the other. I call it spiritual activism or prayer in action. We are living out spiritual values. And when we do that, what we find is, whether it's through prayer or service, we strengthen the regions of the brain, literally like a thick forest, like the Amazon. It's one of life's beautiful parallels, that we strengthen, and the brain comes to look like the Amazon in regions of perception and reflection and orientation. The parietal, precuneus, and occipital regions, the cortex grows thick, which means that life, same home, same family, same job, same corner of the world, adds a whole dimension. We look into life and we can see the bedrock spiritual reality. Life becomes far more full of promise and shine. And that's because we have awakened to the truth. It was there all along, but we have awakened. We've used our awakened brain.
Ana, comments on how you using your awakened brain for health, for healing, for art?
I think art is it's healing. For me, very, very, very strong part. It's when my father passed away, and I've decided I needed to continue to stand up, to be safe, to heal myself by myself. I've decided to buy a analogic camera, and I connect the nature, that I love it, that I have a lot of connection with my work. I've decided in that time that I'm going to be an artist. I think that the art chooses us. I think it's a channel, again, a channel, because if you are open, it's coming. And I believe. And the second thing, the basis is my attitude in my action. I'm not in control of results, because the results of our action belongs to the grand order. I believe on that. I believe on this, the grandmother. But I let the results causes by the grand order of universe to be a part of my projects and my plans. So I relax. The subtle aspect, sutil, né? Subtle aspect that permeates the whole is ancestrality. I believe on that too. It's something very divine in the creation. It's the ring, everything that doesn't have form or in our experience. It's very deep conversation, but I believe on that. For me, for example, the air, the fire doesn't have forms, but it's there. It's something very subtle, very subtle.
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 Yes.
Subtle.
Nice. We have a comment here from, a remark from Maureen, and she would love for you to comment on. She says, this is also true and resonating. About 20 years ago, I had a profound experience of connection with nature that obliterated my sense of separateness. From that point on, I have not felt alone. Wow. Thank you, Maureen, for sharing this with us. Comments, Lisa, Ana?
Yeah, it's a beautiful awakening, a beautiful awakened experience. I'm so grateful you shared that. I'll share a story as well. I was in the desert, the Moab in Utah, and I was in the desert many days feeling very connected. And one evening in my mind's eye, so I wasn't confused, it was very clear in my mind's eye, I saw spirit coming from the mountains. And I realized that there is spirit in the land. Now, if you think about cultures through time that have not lost the primacy of knowing that we are amongst fellow spirits, including those of the land. My mind goes, for instance, to Iceland. In Iceland, the air is still clean, the water is still pure, the land is unspoiled. And that is because the people who are very well, comfortable in post-industrial computer world society also hold on to the awareness that there is spirit in the land. And if you are to carve into the land, and if you are to build a highway, you must first ask the land and give 50 years for a response. So there's no Highway 95 cutting off the ocean or Highway 5 on the other side, because they listened to the land and knew that they were one amongst many spirits.
And I believe that with your research and with science catching up with this knowledge that has been there all along, people will be able to understand this better and hopefully practice this in their decision making.
That's true. Science is a mirror, and it, doesn't prove spiritual awareness because that needs no proof. For just the beautiful story of awakening to the oneness with nature, using your awakened brain that's yours already to be sure and know that is real. And still to have that powerful felt experience mirrored by science is one more way of human knowing. And I think we do gain fortitude when we put all forms of human knowing at the table together. So we have the logician and the empiricist right alongside the intuitive and the mystic, and everybody's in conversation within our inner being. And when we live that way, it actually turns out that we pave the highways. We myelinate the tracks between regions of the brain, and we have a more innovative brain. We actually have a more creative brain. So, Ana, you use yours all day long. And Adriana, with your systems work, you're doing this, multiple knowers and deep dialogue.
Yeah. And I think it's very organic and natural to us, but we have been taught differently. So I was hearing a futurist talk the other day. Her name is Amy Webb. She was talking in this very tech conference about the need for us to have RePerception, to reperceive, because the way we are just doing things automatically without thinking and just going with the flow of the narratives that are out there are not conducive to life and might lead to disaster. So how do we practice?
It's the third wave of feminism. That the first wave of feminism was rights, and the second was jobs, and the third is that women have known this, and now to take our own perception as important and real and put it into the center, as you're doing, of society to make big changes. It's what you're doing.
Yeah, we are all doing, and that's why we're in conversation here. And I have another comment from Meredith to Ana. Ana, she's saying, Ana, it's deeply moving to hear you living your truth, and you're courageous of the heart and fierce inner knowing with trust and confidence. This is the way of being that we need to regain, allow, and accept. So this is from Meredith to you, Ana, if you want to make a comment.
Sorry, Adriana, I'm lost now. I'm lost. Sorry.
Yeah, no, she was just praising that you're living your truth, and that this is the way that we need to all go kind of towards, like to regain this form, to allow, to accept, to express, like you express in your artwork.
Maybe, for example, you asked me, for example, after I was in the forest, when I put everything together and show like this. No,
I think the story you were telling, Meredith, was just commenting that you're living your truth by doing the work you do, by expressing nature in your artwork and just being this channel like you described.
I think for me it's natural, because this is my life. It's my whole life. Since I was very little, I live very well under the nature. I'm feeling very part of the nature. I'm not afraid. I can sleep I can live there because it's my play. Really, it's my house. I feeling that my house is nowadays it's a challenge for me to live in the big cities, for example. That feeling that big cities is my house too. It's a challenge for me, because if the earth it's for everybody live in the earth, so wherever you stay the idea is to be feeling well wherever you are.
Yeah, and
this is my target. This is my.
Yeah, so yeah, it's easier when you're not in a big city, when you're close to the plants,
yes.
Your nursery, in your farm, right? But it's beautiful what you're saying, that it doesn't really matter where we are. Independent of being very, very close to nature or in big cities, if we can have this connection, because we are part of nature, and we can just, connect
Yes, because the sun is there, the air is there, the fire, people is nature. It's a part of you. It's a part of nature. It's when I said that I am a part of the nature, I included people, because if I stay appreciate the loon, why not I can stay in front of people that I don't like so much and appreciate too. Why? This is my target, to appreciate that kind of people that I don't like. Why I don't like? It's because my ego go and make a confusion. But if I'm feeling well, if I'm feeling in, because I believe that we have a lot of masks.
Mm-hmm.
So if this is a part of ego, if you take it is out, maybe the people here in the earth going to be living together very well.
Yes, this is also comes from a systems thinker that I love. He was a biologist, a doctor, and a philosopher from Chile, Humberto Maturana, and he used to say that to love is to let the other appear. It's so beautiful.
Yes, super.
No judgment.
Like that. No judgment.
Just let the other appear and see the other as the other is. That's
yes. Yes.
I think we touched the point that Sibeli is making here, but let me read her comment, and I would love to hear your thoughts as well, both of you. So Sibeli says, I have heard awakened masters saying that being awakened does not free them from the deep work of knowing themselves in the realms of unconscious, the shadow work or the transcendence of the ego that is here while we have a body. How do you do that work on yourselves? And how does this work impact your work? Who would like to go?
For me.
For both.
For both. Lisa. Lisa started.
Sure. So I think that's a very beautiful point that, again, we are a point and we are a wave. We are a distinct, bounded individual on a journey. And as such, we're an expression, like a ray from the sun, of one source of life. And the challenge is to walk, I think, in alignment with source, walk in keeping with who I call God, while living out the uniqueness of who you are. So there's no one like you. And of all time and in all place, there will never be anyone like you. You're a unique expression of spirit, of God. Or as some people might say, God is the superposition of all living beings and beyond and more, right? So we are all godly. And how then do we walk our walk and draw into alignment with the deep truth? And I think the point you raise is very helpful, that working out our shadow, knowing what we somehow find unacceptable in ourselves and therefore don't like in someone else. Like, you put so beautifully and generously, Anna, knowing that my ego's at work when I have a reaction to someone else, when in fact, it's hit my shadow. These are opportunities. Every time I bristle, that's an opportunity. Every time there's a synchronicity that kind of taps me on the shoulder and says, look there, lesson, learning moment, that's an opportunity. Life is a constant evolution. And that's part of our journey. It's beautiful.
And you mentioned that in your book too, Lisa, about depression, also not being just the negative of depression, but being an opportunity, right? Would you like to comment on that?
I think that's very important. About 2/3 of the time, there are times where there's a little physiological piece broken, and maybe 1/3 of the time, often less, actually, it is a medical issue. But at least 2/3 of the time, depression is an invitation. It's part of how we're built. As we start to, I live in the same house, the same family, and the same job. And yesterday it felt great. And today I feel frustrated. And depression isn't just sorrow, it's edginess, and nothing's good enough. And I'm not good enough. And, suddenly I'm pushing up against the box that yesterday felt so free and spacious. That's because we're growing. And the first sign, the ignition of this arc of growth, is depression. Depression is an invitation to become the person, to expand our awareness and look more deeply and have an augmented view, an awakened view, to become the person that we need to be to inherit the next station in our lives. So from the view, a spiritual point of view, time is backwards and forwards, and where we're going is known in the seeds of what percolates within us now. And what is depression is saying, hey, wake up. You got to look inward. God, what are you showing me now? Life, where are you directing me now? Spirit, what say you? Using all forms of knowing, our deep intuition, our dream life, to know where are we about to heel strike so that we can step fully into the person that we are being pulled to be by Spirit. It's almost, there's a teleology, there's a pull for us to become so that we can assume the next station in our lives. It's a very, very beautiful point, because depression is not lost time. Depression is not wasted time. I'm not a loser for feeling depressed. It is a gift to start an awakening. It's a knock at the door, and you can go in.
Wow. An invitation to develop the muscle, right? As you said in the awakened brain. Okay, we have a comment here from Maureen that, sorry, go ahead, Ana. You want to comment too? Go ahead.
For me, my focus in my process, it's on my process, not in the results. And I am always looking for who I am, and I try to know what my mission is. And the conquest is internal, it's visceral, it's very visceral. And I'm still the same child in connection with the roots, the cure, and where I recognize myself. This is my words.
Wow. Yeah. And that's why you picked the roots to express in your beautiful drawings. Very profound.
I think my art, it's not but the art that I represent, it's expression, is express much more than my words. It's difficult for me to be an artist, to put in words, but it's a desafio, esqueci agora.
A challenge. You're
a challenge.
Yourself.
It's challenge to put in words, but it's good. I like challenges.
Yeah, just like Lisa was saying, that depression is this invitation, yes, to do the work. You're being challenged here to express.
No, let's go. It's a peer. Let's go. Go ahead.
Okay, we have a comment from Maureen, and she probably would like for you to comment also. She has a question at the end. It goes. Would the panelists be interested in commenting on the mystic or mystical connection in art and in Lisa's research? Traditionally, the mystic has left the collective religious body tradition and sought a personal relationship with God. But you both seem to be nature mystics, may I say. So how is this mystical knowing fostering greater health?
I think one way I sometimes think of this is that if the heart is a perceptual organ of mystical truth, the heart knows what is true north, where we should go, and the head is a way of implementing. The head is strategy, tactics. Well, when the heart awakens and there's a visitation or an intuition or a deep experience of knowing, that truth can be discerned and untangled by the head, but the truth is intact within the heart. And the head can gently over time start to see the many layers of significance and what that means for us here in our journey to contribute. Now, what we have completely backwards in mainstream United States education is that we're taught that the head is the organ of perception. And then the head strategizes, is tactical, figures out what we want, and then deploys the heart. So the heart becomes only a derivative space of yearning and comparison and striving and envy and admiration. But really, when the heart drives the head, as has been the case in most faith traditions and indigenous traditions, then we have our instrument of sacred perception and awakened knowing driving the instrument of contribution and implementation. Heart driving head.
Heart driving head. And goes back to the words you have in your book, saying that this is this understanding of the awakened brain is a paradigm that is a new paradigm that can give us more clarity and can change the way we lead, the way we relate to each other, right? The way we build structure and civilization and relationship. Wow.
And it gives us a chance to really survive on a planet that's getting very crowded. You know, it gives us a chance to come up with inspirational new strategies that are driven by the instrument of sacred perception. Win-win moments, kerosene on the fire.
Wow. Ana, your comments. So how is mystical knowing fostering greater health for you?
I think that something mystical, I love this mystical, but for me, mystical, it's something that human being in nowadays put in something very special and very reserved, separate of our day by day. This is why I'm talking about ancestrality, because this is part of us. Mystical is this, it's difficult to put in words, because mystical, it's not going to be mystical, it's not, it's going, eu quero dizer que o místico não era para ser tão longe, it's not far away for us, the mystical, because looks like something that is difficult to deep. Mm-hmm. But because in nowadays the ancestrality, it's out, because not interesting, because it's that people not intelligent, people that doesn't know how to write, ignorant. But I don't believe on that. I believe that we need the ancestrality to know who we are, because at first the religion, people look at the sky, the sun, and talk with them. So the mystical, it's a part of us. It nowadays it's far of us, but I think it's so part of us. This mystical, it's something that untouchable, but it's not. I believe that's something that we need to looking for, to take again for us, something that it's part of us.
And I think that goes back to what we were saying, that science now is unveiling these aspects that were considered not based on science and not.
I believe that science is going to touch again. It's everything is coming to connect again. I think everything is connect, because if there exists science, it's because it's a part of our world. So I disagree with nothing. I believe in everything, but I like a lot in an ancestrality, because I believe nowadays ancestrality is like a fashion word, but I believe I'm studying a little bit more. It's not fashionable. It's everybody talking about ancestrality, but I believe that it's coming again. We are looking again, looking for something that make sense for us again. And science, it's together. I believe on everything.
Lisa, you were gonna comment something about that. Lisa?
What I was going to share is that in The Awakened Brain, in my book, I tell the story of searching for our child for 5 years. And it was a very painful road of trials. But once we got the picture that we were not alone, that we were guided by fellow living beings and people showing up and synchronicities and dreams, that this was a living universe guiding and loving and holding us all. It was still a painful journey, but it was one where we knew that we were not alone. And that's a very different way. You know, I wanted a child so much, we weren't finding our child. that's very painful, but it's not nearly as painful as the existential belief that we're nothing but a speck being rubbed out in an empty world. I mean, that's painful. So what I experienced in the journey, and it was, I'm very grateful, and it was at times very sacred with mystical experiences, was that the mystical experiences were directive. They were directive in a deep way about where we were headed. They were directive about the nature of life. And they were actually directive about how to walk on earth. So I think it is possible to be with transcendent experiences in a way where they're received and then gently, respectfully, lovingly observed to untangle and show their meaning. And in fact, I find as a psychologist, I'll go to psychology meetings, the American Psychological Association, and very senior people will pull me aside. And I mean, so far aside that we're in the corner near the men's room, and they'll say, I have to tell you something. And they'll proceed to tell me, the most beautiful moment of my life was after my wife passed. She came to me and I could see her in form, and she got closer and closer. And then my wife, her soul entered my heart, and I have felt her with me ever since. That was the most profound experience of my life, I hear. And then I'll say, well, I'm deeply moved that you've shared that with me. And he said, yes, it's been 30 years and I've never told anyone else. So I think that the greatest gifts are gifts that really can unfold to inform our path, to be about what our life's about, and honoring and respecting and sharing when it feels right. A mystical experience is a gift. It's a gift of ultimate truth. It's a precious, sacred opportunity.
Wow, I'm listening sacred, I'm listening gift, I'm listening honoring, to be directive. And then science can come and explain exactly what happened afterwards, but take that as a direction, as something that is helping you transcend the limitations that you are facing at this particular moment, because you don't have all the information. Wow. Okay, we have some more comments here from the audience. Rodrigo said, great insights, Lisa. Nowadays, people seem to be increasingly facing depression, especially younger generations, and challenging them to shift their perception to a more positive, opportunistic, systemic view is really uplifting. That's a big job, Dr. Lisa Miller. Would you like to comment on that challenge at hand we have with all of us in depression?
So you're absolutely right. And in fact, I'll share it. I just wrote an open letter to Gen Z that was published somewhere, and we can share that afterwards. We have never seen this level of despair and addiction. We have never seen this level of suicide. The rate of death by suicide in high school now rivals the rate of death by auto accident. So this was simply not the case when we were growing up. I'm 55. When I was 15, I didn't know anyone who'd attempted suicide. And yet all three of my children have talked someone off the edge. So there's a shift in the air and water in the culture. And young people feel a level of despair that just is unprecedented in this country. And when you look at the numbers, the very sharp escalation in depression, addiction, suicide is matched statistically by the sharp decline in personal spiritual life, in family faith tradition, whatever that tradition may be. So really, we know through epidemiology that a strong spiritual core protects a teen by 80% decreased relative risk against a diagnosis of depression, 80% against addiction, 60% against depression. So that is a huge protective benefit. We know that. So the most important thing we can do as parents is help our children awaken to the deeper spiritual reality of our lives, to know one another as souls on earth, children of God, to not look at someone's clothes or how they did compared to you, but to look at them in the eye and know that we're on a journey together. So your point is so important, Rodrigo. The best gift we have for Gen Z, for children right now in high school and college, coming of age, is to help them awaken. Because when they do see life in its deeper spiritual truth, they're less addicted, they're less depressed, they're an open system. and they're far more resilient. They're also more ethical to one another. You know, the rate of sociopathy, treating people as means as opposed to deep, loving, respectful I thou relationships, is 17-fold what it once was. This is a culture of sociopathy, and we need to restore sacred relationships with one another as well as with Earth.
And you say that in your book too, that it's part of our physiology, this awakened brain having this notion, this awareness and working this muscle is part of our physiology, and it's the only way to really function in harmony, in equilibrium or what, and to find health for good, right?
It is how we are built. And so we've done a huge song and dance around whole child education, to be nice, to do this, but there's a hole in the middle of the whole child. And in there goes the spiritual core. For a child to really be made whole and strong, like the hub of a wheel, we need to help strengthen their natural spiritual core, where it can atrophy, by way of analogy, like a muscle.
Yeah, and it's not religious. It's different, right?
Well, so we're all born with a natural spirituality through which we feel a deep connection and guidance in spirit and through all life. For about 70% of people, it is cultivated through what is environmentally transmitted as religion. So religion is passed from our ancestors, from our community, it's environmentally transmitted. But for about 70% of people, it helps cultivate their natural spirituality. And for about 30% of people, they cultivate the same natural spirituality through other ways, through walking in nature, through service, through music, through art.
And I would also maybe say curiosity, right? Because this mystery of life, having this curiosity to discover what you don't know yet, which artists do so well.
And to bear witness, right? What science and art share so deeply is to be deep, respectfully, lovingly bearing witness.
Ooh, we have a comment here from Maureen that I think goes back to here. So these reflections are so brilliant. We are all mystics, all wise from the heart and mind. And the realization of this is the holistic unfolding this planet needs. Thank you, Maureen, for this comment. Goes back to Lisa saying that the universe is a living system, right?
And that as you both said so beautifully, we are part of the living system. So as the universe unfolds in her journey, right, there's a natural teleology, an arc, the journey she's on, that is perpetuated through trees and birds and air and fire and through us.
Ooh, Ana, would you like to add some comments there about this unfolding?
About the subject, about suicide people, I worked a few months in a house that young suicidal people, suicidal young people. That's right.
Okay.
It was very strong for me. I learned a lot, but I couldn't work like I wanted because I like it to put art of them, but it was a little bit. There are a lot of rules, and I just was there to take care, to close the door, to take care, to see the behavior. But they are very. I noticed that they are very kind, very special people. I like them a lot, and I come back to my house, and while I was sleeping, I think of them. I pray for them. It was interesting for me, that work, because I used to work in favelas, Shantytown, for a long time too. I like to go in special places that nobody can see. I'm looking to see how, because I believe that art, it's help, it's cure, and it's a healing. This is why I'm looking for these ways
This is an excellent example, Ana. I remember we talking before this conversation we're having right now, that you come from a Waldorf school, and in the Waldorf school, there is a lot of healing that is done through art, and in the upbringing, there's a lot of artistic ways to express yourself as you grow, right? So can you elaborate a little bit about this power of healing in the art, and what kind of magic happens?
Yes, I think it's Waldorf. It's a very, very important school that my mother found this education, and I love it. And it's a gift for me. And because the result of the draw or something that you are prepared, it's not important. The important thing is the process. This is why I learned it very early, that the result is not important. And since I was very, very little, it's common for us to be part of Shantytown. It's common many times in the year. We go there, we work there, and people came from the school to singing and play and make music. Everybody was together. And when I was very little too, a boy that had syndrome de Down syndrome, stay in my class. So to me, it's when you grow up seeing people different than you, which is different. What kind of different? The eyes is like this, or the hand is like it, but inside of you have a soul, like trees, like plants. What a difference! So this is why for me it's a gift, because I had the opportunity to learn in a school that I learned much more than how to write or how to say something, because I learned how to think. I had my mind, I learned. This is important. Waldorf is very nice because of this. You are a part of world. You are there to help the others. If you have more, you need to give the others, to share. This is, for me, it's important.
You mentioned the Down syndrome friends of yours, and I would like to also say that Maria is organizing visits of autistic children to the exhibit, right, Maria? If you want to comment on that as well.
Yes, on September 23rd, we're gonna be receiving kids under spectrum or with sensory problems. And this is part of our mission, to give access to inclusion. So those kids, of course, we have to prepare. It's a different, we call this like a sensory friendly exhibition. So we have to prepare the whole environment. We have to produce like a manual guide. So they have to visit this in advance. But this is very nice. We have to have some tables with sensory things. They're not going to be able to touch the artworks. So we have to prepare like a table with some leaves and some things that they can touch. And this is very nice, because this is give us the opportunities to give them to experience, the exhibition. And you guys talking about perception, and this is beautiful because everybody has perceptions. So everybody have different perceptions, and this is going to be beautiful. So we are very proud that we're going to be able to host this and catch this whole feelings and everything. So
thank you for sharing that. It's amazing that the 55 Project is also going to do that during the exhibit. So the exhibit goes until July. If you're in Miami, don't forget to go see and check it out. And going back to what Ana said, what's important is the process. not the results. We are so used in the business world to just measuring results, that we forget that the process is so important. Again, back to Maturana, the systems thinker that I mentioned before, he says that innovation is a relational dynamic. And systems thinking is process thinking. So I love when you said that, Ana, that is the process that really matters. Thank you for sharing that. So we are going towards the end of our webinar, and I will ask our two guests to share a final message with us. Before I go there, I'll just read Rodrigo's comments. He said, "Thank you for sharing this, Lisa. I totally agreed. I have a 21-year-old daughter and can see traits of what you've said every day. So this discussion has given me really meaningful insights." Oh, thank you for sharing, Rodrigo.
Yep.
That's great. Okay, so back to both of you for your message to our audience. So Lisa, you can go first. Go ahead.
Well, I think probably the most poisonous part of our culture is that we other people. We other them because they're different, or we consider them more or less in some way. But I think back to the lesson of my mother, who's here tonight, Margot. When she was a little girl, she lived in a very small town in Iowa and owned the general store. And on the front porch of the general store, people would come from all across the town, everybody, because there was one store, to sit and visit. And of course, this included a gentleman with Down syndrome who would sit there 8-10 hours a day. And everyone cared and everyone connected. And what I learned from my mother as we moved to larger and larger cities is that every city, in fact, the whole world, is a small town.
Thank you, Lisa. Ana, a final message to our audience.
My final message is difficult. Well, I think if you open your heart and feel in the nature, like something that it's a part of you, and that you relax when you see your dog or your mother or your father or your son or wherever, and just relax, because everything's the same, and we are here to study, we are here to learn something, and we are part of everything. So be relaxed and let it be. Let it be. Let it be. And open heart, and open your heart and conscience. Put your conscience, something like that. Simple, to be simple. Like to be simple.
Thank you, Ana.
Thank you, Adriana.
Maria, you would like to also have a message to our audience?
Well, I just want to, first of all, I just have to thank you, all of you, to have this uplifting conversation. And I'm never going to forget this comment that Lisa said, like a hard driving path. This is beautiful. And I just have to say thank you very much for this opportunity. It was very, very nice, very beautiful.
You're on mute, Lisa.
Maria, thank you for hosting the children. Very often people say to me, as a psychologist, children with autism, you can feel how strong their spirit is, that the spiritual core is alive and well, and perhaps even stronger. And when we connect with children who have a wall with autism or any type of challenge, the soul, the inner core is still intact. And I think they'll be deeply moved by the art exhibition because it is profoundly spiritual.
Well, I would like to invite you to be part of this experience next Saturday, 23rd at 10 a.m. from 10 to 12:30 p.m. So that would be beautiful. If you want to share with us this experience, it would be amazing.
Thank you.
And I would like to thank Eder Chiodeto, the curator who always believed in me and my work. I thank you, Maria and Flavia and Adriana, Lisa. Thank you very much for everybody.
Yes, thank you to everyone. Thank you.
I would love to also close with something that Lisa chose to open the book. She picked a quote from Albert Einstein to begin her book that says, "Never cease to stand like curious children before the great mystery into which we were born." Whew. So visit the exhibit if you have a chance in Miami until July. Visit Ana's work in Instagram and get to know her better. Read Lisa's book. The book, as she says, it is truly a story of how she discovered the awakened brain and how we can learn to cultivate this in our daily lives. Guys, this is so important for humanity. It is, as she says, it's a story of human possibility. And we can only believe that we are creators of our own lives. And together we can create much better than we have created up to this point. And there can be healing, there can be health, there can be wellness, there can be connection, and there can be awakened brains everywhere. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for the audience who has been with us. Thank you for all the comments and questions. We'll have the recording soon, and stay tuned for the next episode of the series Nature Connects Art and Science. Thank you again, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.